Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, The Future of Multifamily Leadership in an AI-Driven 2026. And we are so glad that you are here. But before we dive in, a quick note. This session will be recorded and we'll be sharing the recording with all of the attendees once the event, of course, wraps. Well, guys, I'm Tony Sousa, friend and fan of WithMe, of course, the company behind Print With Me and Sip With Me. WithMe's technology-powered solutions serve over 4 million people nationwide, and those were specifically designed to elevate the resident experience, streamline on-site operations, and help property teams manage costs more effectively, of course. And to help lighten that load with the year-end planning, WithMe is offering two incredible holiday promotions. If you sign up for Sip With Me, which is the coffee service, by December 31st, end of the year, you'll enjoy 2 free months of service and receive a holiday coffee bar package with syrups, cups, and stirrers. You can also sign up and enjoy 2 free months with Print With Me. That's the printing service if you sign up by December 25th. These are great for teams looking to start 2026, of course, with added convenience and cost savings. If you are interested, be sure to email sales@withme.com to learn more. Today's conversation features three incredible panelists who will be bringing a wealth of experience and perspective to the table. They'll be sharing their expert takes on trends that will be shaping multifamily in 2026, as well as how to effectively balance both technology and the human connection in an AI-driven world. We're going to, of course, open up things for Q&A at the end, so be sure to drop your questions in the chat as we go, and we're going to be sure to get back to those. Again, if we can't get to those at the end, we'll be sure to answer all questions that are provided today. So be sure to hang on to those questions and ask as many as you possibly can. Without further ado, I'd like to have the panelists introduce themselves. We're excited that you guys are here, your beautiful faces, your smiles, and we're going to start with Miss Lisa Landis. I'll let you go right away.
Thanks, Tony. Hi, I'm Lisa Landis. I'm the Senior Vice President at LSA. I have been in property management for 20 plus years, and I started as a leasing consultant so I've done pretty much everything there is to do in property management. I'm excited to be part of the conversation today with everyone and my panelists as well. Thanks, Tony.
That's awesome. Thanks, Lisa. Lisa M.
Hello, everybody. Happy holidays. I'm Lisa Moore, and I told Lisa L earlier today. I'm not going to tell everybody how long I've been in the business because I don't want them to start adding on their fingers, like, how old is she? We
And
don't
it's
talk
none of their
about that.
business, Lisa.
We don't talk about that anymore. But I also grew up in this industry as well. But I am very proud to represent GoldOller Real Estate Investments as the Director of Training and Support. And in that role is all of our software stack and change management. And at this time, GoldOller has implemented all of our day-to-day operations with AI technology, and we operate up and down the East Coast of the United States. And I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, Lisa. It's great to have you. And of course, last but not least, Danny.
Thanks, Tony. Hey, everybody. My name is Danny Thomas. I'm the Vice President of Analytics at Portico Property Management. I started in the industry about a decade ago. I stumbled into it from healthcare, and I thought I would just stay here for a couple years, pick up some skills, and leave. And unfortunately, I fell in love with it, and I'm stuck here now for the rest of my life. And so I'm excited to have this conversation with some really intelligent people.
Well, Danny, we're glad that you're stuck here for the rest of your life with us. Thanks, panelists, for joining us today. We're going to jump right in because we got a lot of questions to get to. Obviously, on a prep call, the folks weren't there, but we covered a lot. We're going to start. Miss Lisa M, we'll go by that. We'll have you start with this question here. Is really as you go forward, and it's kind of a broad stroke question, but feel free to answer it as specifically as you'd like. What trend do you believe will have the biggest impact on multifamily leadership in 2026? We'll kind of start there. Lisa?
AI is doing so much for us already. I can really see in 2026 AI evolving with their predictive analytics. I
Mhm.
think that's really what's going to drive our next wave of innovation. I think that AI will develop to where it can anticipate kind of what our residents' needs are from identifying renewal risk, based on payment behavior or service issues that they may having, or predicting maintenance issues like based on work order history that have been supported and complaint patterns. But not only that, I think it's also going to predict the success
Mm.
through analytics with just our day-to-day operation, which in turn will help increase the retention of our employees and keep them happier and in place for longer periods of time.
What impact? Great answer, Lisa. I'll just ask a follow-up question if you're okay. What impact do you think will that have on leadership as well? Is it they'll
Sure.
have to understand the technology more and more? They'll have to, yeah. What impact do you think it'll have on leadership as we go forward?
I think it'll make leadership become, I think that leadership is going to, along with the rest of our industry, learn how to trust the tools based on the
Mm.
analytics with the results that it's providing for us. And they're very apparent. And we're seeing those just become better and better as the tools begin to get more developed and get smarter and get quicker. So we're going to see less turnover and reduction in our teams. Leadership is going to be able to have information at their fingertips as AI is providing that for us on a regular basis. And at the end of the day, I think that it's going to I think it'll get simpler, more simplified, and increase the use across our companies and our industry altogether.
Yeah, good answer. What I took away from that is a lot of things, but it sounds like trust is going to be key.
Big time.
Trusting the data as it gets more refined.
Sure.
Miss Lisa Landis, I'll ask you that same question. What do you believe that the future trend? What do you think the impact it's going to have on multifamily leadership in 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, I think that it's going to shift toward protecting the time
Hmm.
of our site teams and also our leaders to help simplify the work. So, not adding steps so that teams can spend more time with residents, interacting, problem solving, and on leadership. In
Hmm.
affordable housing, especially, the application process is super complex and requires a lot of human interaction. So it requires judgment, relationships, empathy, things that AI can't provide. So we want to lean on the things that AI can provide, which is creating tools and processes to free up the time so that we can focus more on the human side.
Hmm. Very well said. Very interesting take, very different take, but I think all very valid takes. We're going to continue to talk about this. Danny, obviously you're on the analytics side, business intelligence side of things. What impact do you think that this new technology, as it continues to emerge in our industry, is going to have? What type of impact is it going to have on multifamily leadership?
Um, I mean, it's gonna do a lot. I mean, I think overall, I'm gonna take a step back. In multifamily, I think typically what you're seeing now is you saw a rise in transactions in 2021, and so what that's gonna mean in 2026 is you're gonna have a lot of these 5-year ARMs coming due, and so you're gonna see a lot of either for sales, you're going to see still a lot of supply coming into the market. And so what does that mean overall? There's the incentive to um, reduce rent growth or try to minimize the impact of rent growth, and the reduction there is going to be big. Expense management is going to be big. And then this is where, to answer your question now, AI probably makes a big impact here where you're trying to reduce expense management and then also minimize the impact of reduced rent growth. And so your question about what does leadership do? You have to accept the technology. You got to figure out how it fits into the business. Typically, all of these things are just tools, and so you want to figure out what is the the problem I'm trying to solve, and how does this play into that?
Interesting. Yeah, I have a lot to ask on that, but I want to actually just kind of jump over to kind of this next piece is really how it continues to reshape multifamily. How are Elisa Landis? I'll go to you with this one. How are resident expectations evolving, and what shifts are your teams preparing for? In that last answer you provided, it sounded like really you've had these conversations about what this technology is going to do, obviously opening up more free time for them to focus on the things that are the most important for your team, but also the most important for the residents. So, how do you see resident expectations, especially in an AI-driven future, impacting your teams, and what shifts are you even seeing today and into the future?
So a lot of our customers, they want everything right now. They want to text, they want to email, they never want to even walk into the office, let alone talk to anyone. So they want short, quick interactions and answers, and that absolutely changes how we support them. But at the same time, we also serve other generations who really value personal connection. They want to slow down, they want to talk to you face to face. They want you to walk them through the process, and they don't want to use technology. Like they're refusing. They won't even pay their rent online. So our teams are expected to communicate effectively, basically in two worlds at the same time. And some of our newer team members that are a little bit less experienced, they tend to lean toward the fast digital communication, right? So they're really comfortable with that. Where our long tenured members are a little bit more comfortable with that face-to-face interaction. So neither is wrong, but I think both navigating both of those at the same time is like kind of speaking two different languages. And this dual style is becoming the new normal, especially as we serve residents with a wide range of comfort levels around technology. So the great thing is that we're learning how to meet residents where they are. And whether that's through technology or conversation, we're giving them the tools and the permissions to do both so that they can, serve residents on both ends of the spectrum.
It's a really interesting take, and it's actually not one that I even considered. And but you have obviously market rate experience, Lisa, and you also have affordable experience. I
Mhm,
sense that your answer is kind of a take of those two worlds in some ways as well.
mhm,
How are you kind of bridging that gap, if you will, between the associate A and the associate B? You've described them both,
mhm,
having maybe a tendency to want to lean more into tech, and the other want to lean into maybe the way it's always been. How are you
mhm.
kind of blending those together and creating a dynamic culture?
Yeah, I think that it's as a leader, you have to learn how to support both and to come at different angles and really get them working together. So I
Mhm.
think the ones that are not comfortable on each side, kind of pairing them up and using a buddy system so that they can learn from each other as well.
Yeah, I like that. You're obviously to their benefit using the platforms, but also creating a team bond together. Great answer, Lisa Moore. Well, what's your take here on this, and how are resident expectations changing, and what shifts are you guys seeing at your organization?
I mean, Lisa Landis said it beautifully, and I shared that same sentiment with her. The beautiful thing about the technology is it is there for those instant gratification demographics that are living in our community that are expecting those instant answers and want that response very quickly and immediately. And if we haven't responded to them and they're a prospect, they've moved on. If they're a resident that hasn't been answered quickly, they have grown frustrated and left a negative review. So the beautiful thing about the AI technology is it's going to accommodate that need in that moment, but it's also going to free up the time with that other person that Lisa mentioned so beautifully that is not so comfortable communicating. And so the teams are going to be able to give that human element to be able to really focus on their needs, slow down a little bit and answer them, be more professional with them, and resolve their problems quicker in the style that they prefer to be. So I just have to echo Lisa, and that was a great answer.
Obviously, there's a lot of discussion, Lisa, about the loss of customer service, right, post-pandemic, and not just in
Mhm,
multifamily. Do you
mhm,
think with the reemergence or the emergence, if you will, not even reemergence, but the emergence of this new technology, I've heard you mention it a couple of times in some of your answers that it's going to allow the teams to really kind of focus on customer service and face-to-face interactions
mhm,
and digital interactions with residents. Do you think this
mhm.
will really add and be a supplemental tool to help kind of strengthen customer service going forward?
Absolutely. That's how we're presenting it today because what we have seen from the analytics and the results that we are seeing is that we have to treat them as it's an AI system, but our humans are also a system as well. And we have to keep the human in our technology and let them work together so that they can achieve the same results. But we have, like I mentioned to you, the quick results and the ability to be quick on our feet, but then our humans are really being able to hone in on those soft skills, conflict management, dealing with evictions and delinquency and people that may be going through hard times in their lives and being empathetic and really settling in with those folks. And I think without the both of them working together, I don't think the AI technology would work. I think that we need both pieces still today with our on-site operations.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's almost like the teams have to continue to grow in their technical expertise, but also in their soft skills, as you alluded to, their
Yes.
emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and also being aware of other humans around them, specifically their residents, I'm sure. Danny, what's your take here? Obviously, you're on the analytics side, but I'm sure you see a lot of resident analytics, what pleases them, what doesn't please them, what they want more of, what they want less of. Do you have a take on this and kind of what shifts that you're seeing from your perspective?
Yeah, I think some of the later numbers that I think have come out this year have said that the first-time home buyer is now 40 years old. It's the first time that it's gotten that high. Um, and initially, that sounds like it's a bad thing, but I think what people are seeing is that the renting market uh, is fantastic. Like the product that's out there now is great. It's luxury. People want that sort of experience. They want to not handle maintenance issues and offload those to professionals that are managing. And so the resident expectation, it seems like they want ease, they want speed, like Lisa had mentioned before. And I think the product that's coming out and then the tools that we're using as property management companies to provide that for them is we're seeing that translate into that first time home buyer number that I was mentioning.
Interesting. Are those just economic factors? Some of the deep dive into kind of why that number is shifting up? I know that's maybe for a different call.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume it's a multivariate problem where there's some folks that's the case. Home prices have definitely risen, and so that's probably the 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 case for a bunch of folks. But then also, you see it, folks that have had a home for the longest time, and now their kids are out of the house. You want to downsize, renting might be the right solution in that market as well. And so, like Lisa had mentioned before, you got these two different demographics of folks. Ones that are younger, ones that are older. You just got to be able to meet everybody's needs.
Yeah, it feels like almost a theme that we've started really quickly. Just, we really have a variety of different resonance and expectations, and maybe that's not new to anybody in property management. We've had to do this for some time. So really great take, Danny. Thanks for sharing your perspective on this. Lisa Landis, we'll go back to you on this. We talked a little bit about the residents and their expectation. A notable group in technology implementation, of course, is the owner, right? The asset manager. And obviously, from their perspective, I'm sure they're hearing a lot about this new technology at their level, conferences, webinars like this one, and other things. And they are then going to people like you and others, management leaders, to say, what are we doing to implement this new technology? How do you see those expectations changing, and how long have they been changing, and what do you see going forward?
So I think the biggest thing is they're no longer satisfied with looking backwards at results, right? They want to be better to see about what's coming. They expect a little bit more visibility into the risks, the trends, and upcoming issues before that they're actually results and that they can not do anything about them. I think they ask a lot more operational questions. They want to understand what's happening on the site. They want to support. They want to understand how we use technology. They want to understand where our processes aren't working. And they also expect cleaner data. But they expect a clear story behind the data. They want to understand it a little bit more. They also expect a higher level of partnership. So they want leaders who communicate with them openly, who raise concerns right away, who offer solutions instead of just bringing the problems. And they also expect that we're using the tech to do things better and faster. So I think the shift is healthy. I think it pushes all of us to be a little bit more collaborative and to remove some barriers from our teams and to align the performance with the purpose.
Yeah, that's really a great answer. It seems as though multiple shifts are happening at the same time to create that stronger partnership. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about sort of economic market conditions that are obviously in those types of circumstances force all parties to kind of work closely together to find positive results in a challenging circumstance. But now we have sort of insert technology now that everyone's kind of learning in real time, if you will. And so very, very well said. Lisa Moore, do you have a thought on this, on kind of how this is shifting the owner manager relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, I think about it and they want to see a revenue driver. I mean, they want to see how this is increasing revenue, ROI. And so if we can put those analytics in front of them frequently, they are happy campers, right? So, I mean, that is pretty simplified to me. So we are always always looking to, like I said, put those metrics in front of them. And to Lisa's point, they are more involved in our business today than they ever have been. They're wanting actual access into the platforms. They're wanting to see what day-to-day operations looks like. And so I think that open communication with them, and letting them know transparently any hiccups or roadblocks that you may be having, not just celebrating the successes, but showing them any challenges, not only that the teams may be having, but that our demographics, our residents may be having, communicating or participating with the technology. I think being transparent right up front helps them trust us more and gives us the reins a little bit looser if we can continue just to give them information at all times.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you make. Obviously, this call isn't necessarily, managing up, if you will, or working with your asset manager, but I think there's some great principles here that, contrary to what maybe some might think that having your owners or asset managers get more involved, what I'm hearing now is, through transparency and leveraging technology, it actually is becoming, a stronger partnership and relationship. And obviously, when that happens, everybody's winning. Thank you both, Lisas, on this. I'd actually like to pivot over, Danny, for your thoughts on, economically and the market forces that are influencing some of these priorities, leadership priorities, for example. And where do you see that going, just as these economic and market conditions continue to push priorities or shift priorities in the year ahead?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it earlier, but the a wave of supply coming in 2026 is something to think about. The capital costs are still high, so that's going to have an impact on transactions this year. But when you look at things like consumer debt, it's starting to trend up as well, which is problematic. I think the other big thing is I think weakening labor reports when it comes to young folks is something that I've been reading about lately. There are opportunities there. Multifamily is an industry that we don't always. I didn't know about it honestly until someone told me about it, and so there's
Mhm.
opportunities for us as multifamily leaders to go out there and find the talent that I think we all really need.
Yeah. Thanks, Danny, for recapping in that way. We've covered a lot of points. We've talked about how the shifts in leadership are going to occur. We talked about already how residents are shifting a bit and causing our teams to adjust to their expectations. And really, just this last point I found really quite interesting is now that it's really shifting. I think the dynamic between management and ownership in such a positive way, or at least that's been your experience thus far, and I suspect that's for the most part the experience out there. I'd like to talk a little bit about how a lot of this is shifting from manual processes to what we call sort of intelligent systems or processes, if you will. Lisa Landis, I'd love to get your thoughts on how you think AI is influencing decision making, almost forecasting and kind of day-to-day leadership. Any specifics that you could provide there for those listening?
Yeah, so I think AI is taking a lot of heavy lifts off of our plates. It's helping us do stuff that we don't love, right? Drafting emails, summarizing reports, creating training manuals. Maybe some of us love it. I shouldn't assume that we don't. Helping prepare for meetings. And so those time savings are meaningful, where teams are already stretched thin and every hour matters, right? And as you said, I have some experience with affordable housing. I think this is especially true for us, because that we can't utilize a lot of automations. So it really helps us to reforecast. It can pull information across our systems, helping us to kind of see the trends quicker and point to potential issues before they actually become problems. And as a leader, it helps me to make decisions that are faster with more confidence just by looking at the data. So the important thing to remember about AI is that it doesn't replace judgment. So it just gives us better information so that we can make better decisions, have the conversations that we need, and build the relationships that we need to. So it's becoming a tool that supports leadership rather than something that leads for us.
I don't want to put you on the spot, and I could always go to Lisa more and come back to you. But I think anyone listening, I think this is kind of where the rubber hits the road with this technology, at least from what I've heard, is specifics, right? And you don't have to be overly specific, but you covered a lot of great points there, Lisa. Is there any specific sort of obstacle or challenge or day to day that you could reference that, this type of technology has been helpful to provide you insights that then allowed you to make a better business decision than maybe prior to having this technology at your fingertips?
Yeah, so I use it a lot, and I found a lot of different ways to use it. Most recently, when we have stuff that comes back from an inspection, I can just kind of put the summary report in there and it'll create a spreadsheet for me. So I can take a look at where are the deficiencies and how do I get this aligned so that we can solve it quickly. Where before you're opening an attachment, you're trying to look at all the data and then you're manually like, oh, I got to take this piece and put it over
Very,
here.
very time consuming.
Yeah, and it's not really, doing anything except for sucking your time. You're not getting any value out, you're not making any money, you're not, making anything productive out of it. But I just throw it in the system. I throw it into Chat GPT and I say, here's what I want, and it does it for me. And then I'm able to concentrate on the things that really are important.
What would you say here? Listen, I know these aren't on the list of questions, but I think it's interesting. I think, Lisa, I want to just stay with you briefly. For those who are kind of nervous about, hey, I just throw it into this microwave system and it gives me the data. How can I trust that it's 100% accurate? Any thoughts to that? I mean, obviously, there's just a level of, I don't want to call it blind trust, but there is a level of trust in the system or platform you're using.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's becoming smarter and smarter as we go, but to that person that's still a little skeptical and maybe just loves that hard manual work of scrubbing data, spreadsheets, they're out there.
Uh-huh.
Is there any word of encouragement that you could provide them?
I think just try it. It's gonna take some finessing to figure out exactly how to get it to do what you want it to do. And sometimes I get frustrated and like, I'll just do it myself. And I feel like it's gotten to know me. Like it knows how I want it to respond. And the more that you work with it, the better it's going to get, and the more it's going to provide you. I feel almost like it's my admin, right? I don't have an admin, and most of us don't have one, right? We'd love to, but now my admin is AI, and I can just call on them to help me with anything I want. So try it, see what happens, see how much easier it makes your life.
That's great. Actually, as you were describing that story, it reminds me of GPS, maybe early days of GPS. If you recall, it
Um,
was like, why is it taking me there? I know how to get there. But obviously, as GPS got smarter and obviously that trusted relationship got better, GPS is doing pretty well for us these days. Thanks for breaking that down. And again, I know I kind of hit you with some questions there that maybe weren't on the list of initial questions, but thanks for giving some feedback. Lisa Moore, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I know you guys have implemented a lot of automated systems and AI generated technology throughout your portfolio. Any thought here on how it's kind of making the day to day a little bit better, going from a manual process to now a more, shall we call it, intelligent process?
Yeah, I mean, not to continue to circle back to operations and the operations life that our on-site teams are dealing with, but some other ways that I'm not specifically using them, but other departments are. Our compliance department is using the AI technology for several of those things that Lisa mentioned, but inspection data, pulling the data in, being able to create reports that we can create gains and losses from, build a plan from, lease audits, lease compliance, charge schedules, those kinds of things. We are using that on a regular basis just to make sure that we're covered and what is being billed is being collected, and if it's not, why, and are the right things being charged, and those kinds of things. We can get into employee productivity with hours worked and time worked, and I mean it's just never ending. I mean you can, outside of just what they're doing there on site with answer automation and delinquency renewals, all of this other spectrum is available to us just to help simplify again so that we don't have to do all of that manual work.
Yeah, I think that seems to be a theme here. Is in Lisa Pryor, I think just put it very well, just as you did. Is this can be in our assistant, right? It doesn't have to be our enemy or our foe, or even one out to take our job. It could be really somebody or something, or obviously it's not a
Mhm.
human as I described, somebody or something, but it is a thing, and it is something that can really provide us support in that way. Danny, where is this type of automation reducing operational strain? Or creating more consistent outcomes. You're somebody that looks at the data all the time. Where are
Mhm.
you seeing those opportunities?
Um, I can talk about my own personal experience. As a VP of analytics, I'm building systems to look at reporting. And so we're able to, instead of 70 different folks collating reports throughout the week, I do that automatically nightly um, for the entire business. It's putting things in a consistent format across the board, whether it be tracking exposure, whether it be lead management, whether it be deciding what pricing looks like at your asset compared to the rest of the properties. All those tools are at the fingertips of my teams, and it's built on automations that ChatGPT has helped me put together. It's 4xing the output that what's required a team of five. And so like Lisa's have meant the Lisas have mentioned, um, it's yeah, it's not replacing me. It's just making me more effective at what I'm doing.
Yeah, very well said. I mean, I actually want to just double down with that question and maybe that thought that you just ended with for those individuals, especially for someone like you, Danny, who is unafraid of data, unafraid of analytics. It's what your day job is. You're also not afraid of automation. I know you personally. I know a lot of the systems that you've worked on and continue to work on. Any words to maybe that operator or maybe that individual in accounting or marketing from someone in the analytics division? How
Yeah.
trustworthy can this automation and this information, this data, these data points be? And any
Yeah.
words of um, solace or support from your perspective?
Yeah. I have a couple thoughts here. So indulge me for 20 seconds. One would be, um, oh, they both left me. But first of all, I think
Don't tease us like that, Danny. You better those thoughts better come back. We want those thoughts. I just cut off your third thought, so I'll let you finish that one.
no, I don't think people need to worry. I think what the key thing for me is that what do I look for from work? It's really not Danny does this. He creates reports. There's no passion there for me for that. It's the relationships. It's the curiosity. It's the learning. It's producing meaningfulness in the world. And so again, AI is just a tool that helps me do what I was already doing well. That's where an operator needs to live. Is like what am I fantastic at? What is it that brings, how do I bring joy and meaning to the world? How can AI support that effort? And I think that's the way people should look at it. At the end of the day, AI is just a loss calculator. It's making predictions and decisions based on if it's a number, it's say, hey, there's the expected output, and this is what I got, and minimizing that loss between the two. It's called I think it's called category entropy. But that's all AI is doing is just trying to get as close to a prediction as possible. We already do that intrinsically as humans, and so in my opinion, it's just there is some. I don't want to negate the thought that it can take away people's jobs. Like I think that's a real fear that people have. Instead of looking at it that way, I think it's more helpful to think, how can it aid me and help me to thrive? Hopefully that's helpful. It's at least helped me in the way that I've thought about this.
Yeah, I think you brought actually a really interesting perspective. I think naturally as associates we think, okay, well, we're really good at this, but every year I have an annual review and I have to focus on all these things I'm not really good at. To me, it's an abstract point that I'm making, but ultimately to the point that you just made is what am I really good at and passionate about? This tool can help support that and amplify that impact, if you will, that you're already naturally good at. And now this sort of mitigates any lost time, lost leader, if you will, lost time, lost, focus time. And then, of course, the things that you aren't that great at, because naturally you're not great at those things, probably because you don't like to do them, right? Now you have an assistant in a lot of ways. And so this just elevates the overall human performance, I suspect, as well. And I think you guys have all made that point very well. So, Danny, thank you for kind of taking an abstract point on that, but I think it makes a lot of sense for those on the call here. I do want to jump over to a little something different. Lisa Landis, what risks or blind spots do you think that leaders should watch out for as AI adoption accelerates? Are there anything there that caught you off guard along the way as as you implemented AI?
Yeah, so it's smart, but it's not so smart that it knows when you're making a mistake and telling it something wrong. So it's not smarter than you are,
That's
really.
when it gets dangerous and condescending.
Right,
That's the
right,
next phase.
for sure. So if the data that you put in isn't clean, then the decisions coming out are not going to be accurate. And so sometimes if you react too quickly without verifying everything, then that's when it can become an issue. Another place that I have had a blind spot is automating processes. When you're trying to automate processes with AI that are already broken, sometimes this just creates faster mistakes. So we need to make sure that we're using it when it makes sense and not just using it to say, hey, we're using it. It's sparkly. I love it. And we also have to, again, check that data that goes in and out. I think one other risk is being too reliant on AI and forgetting how to think through a decision on your own or how to word an email by yourself because you just haven't had to do it because you've got your friend. I call him Chatty. I don't know what you guys call him, but so I think the overall risk is just kind of losing kind of the human side and making sure that AI is supporting our judgment and not replacing our judgment.
Yeah, I think you make a great point. Obviously, I think it's very easy with this type of technology or this tool available to you to, um, for lack of a better term, overuse and rely upon too heavily, and also just say, well, AI analytics produced it; it must be right. I do think that there's probably this balance, and I think for that skeptic listening, right, that operational skeptic to say, well, I'm going to double check everything. I don't think that's probably a bad thing to start, but as it proves out to be more reliable, obviously trust grows at the same time. So. Well
Mhm.
said, Lisa. Lisa, more. I'll ask you the same question. From your experience, what are some of those risks and blind spots
Yeah.
when teams and
Mhm.
companies are rolling out this type of technology?
Sure. I will bring it back to, just the on-site teams and their day-to-day and us rolling it out. Staff resistance, team resistance, fear of the unknown. Oh, they're bringing in the robots to replace us, and everybody's up in arms and doesn't even want to take one step forward. So I think getting the buy-in from the leadership from the very beginning, I think the leadership should immerse themselves with the knowledge and be able to creatively and enthusiastically relay the information to the on-site teams, go into the processes shoulder to shoulder with them and start from day one like that. But it can't just be a set it and forget it kind of thing because our bots learn from us. There's a knowledge database that has to be kept up regularly with the ever-changing world that we live in, and specials and building maintenance and all of the things. So the leaders checking in regularly, ongoing calls with them, trainings as turnover happens on site and in the offices. I think that results need to be monitored regularly and wins need to be celebrated, even no matter how small in the very beginning. It's crucial to your teams to keep them motivated and excited, and they see them coming from the leadership, knowing that the leadership is bought in and there to support you along the way.
Incredibly well said. It actually leads really kind of to the next question, Elisa Moore, that we were talking about is, how can leaders maintain sort of this human connection and accountability as processes continue to get more and more automated? Because there can be a disconnect, right? And so
Absolutely.
I think I'll just leave this
Yeah.
question again with you. I think you're on a roll, and I think you just made some
Okay.
great points. But I'd love to get your thoughts on how
Sure.
leaders at every level, we're not just talking about executive leaders, how can they keep this
Fair.
this
Yeah.
human connection, and how impactful is that human connection to remain?
Well, and you've heard me mention it before, but at GoldOller, we treat AI as a partner. We again, this is not something that's coming in to replace our human system. It's brought into partnership to partner with our humans to elevate them. AI is never going to turn a wrench. It's never going to host a resident event. It's never going to go pick up trash outside, for your curb appeal. I mean, not yet anyway.
I was
But
saying,
AI.
don't play this video back in
Yeah,
2050.
exactly. I mean, it's really just a tool to respond and act when our on-site teams can't, when they can't be there. I mean, and this has resulted in a significant jump in our employee retention. We saw in a year, we saw almost a 40% increase in our retention with our employees because they can breathe. They know that the automation is going to answer those day-to-day mundane phone calls or follow-ups or answer questions about why they owe a balance, and things of that nature, so they can just really settle in and be great at what they do and why we hired them to come to work for us to begin with. We need them to be them and just really complement what the AI tool is being able to help them with daily.
Yeah, I love your perspective on this. It sounds you're convincing me that you're trusting these systems, and also at the same
Good.
time
Good.
you really trust your humans to do the human work that they need to do as well. Thank you for unpacking that, Lisa Landis. I'd love to get your thoughts here, Danny. I promise I'm going to get to you. I know it feels like it's been a little while. I'll get back to you, Lisa, on this keeping a human connection
Mhm.
in this era of automation and new technologies. How important is that?
Yeah, I think it's huge. And I agree with Lisa. Like the human side is so important. You have to be present. You have to go to the properties. You have to talk to the teams. You have to check in with them instead of just reading a report, assume that you know what's happening. The more automated that things become, the more intentional I think we have to be about having real conversations and really getting out there and seeing what's going on. How is the technology really working? So I think for accountability, it's being clear about your expectations and then following through. So automation can send reminders, it can track tasks, but it can't replace leadership. So people need to hear the why from the leaders. They need context. They need to know that somebody's paying attention. AI can support the work, but it can't build the relationship. So again, I think I'm just saying what Lisa said a little bit differently, but we both have the same idea in this is it's not going to replace any kind of human interaction. And that
Do you think
has to be most important.
do you think this technology is forcing more human interaction than ever before?
I think it frees up the time so that you can have more human interaction. It's all about, what you choose and how that you spend your time. But for me, I feel like that's exactly what it's doing. It's creating space for me to have more of those conversations and to be more present.
And that's always a wonderful thing to have your leaders more engaged and
Yeah.
and more supportive, of course. Uh, Danny, I think you have some thoughts on this. I think it comes down to maybe some fundamentals of leadership. I'd love to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah. I'll be a little bit stronger in my thoughts here. This is something I'm actually passionate about. Um, I think if you're worried that automation and processes are going to force you to lose connection, I don't think you're actually being a leader. Um, like these are tools and processes like Lisa that mentioned that will get the work done, but the relationship that you build as a leader is with real humans and with your teams. You need to know what makes them passionate about work. You need to know what they're trying to achieve for their careers. Um, when I had a large team, I was not looking for technical skills. I was looking for human things like curiosity. I employed people who had physics backgrounds, art majors, geology backgrounds, and the common theme amongst all of them was that they were really curious people. And it made for a really high functioning team because we all were tied in a mission and a goal. And so to me, AI is just another tool that you're adding to the tool belt. You as a leader need to know how to lead in these sort of situations. You need to alleviate fears on your team. But in general, like if you're worried about human connection, you might have already missed the point.
Hmm. Very well said. We appreciate your, I won't say a hot take, but definitely a strong point that you made there, Danny. I think that's a very fair point as well, especially as we proceed in what we thought was going to be a smooth sail 2026, survive to 25. Now in 26, it's still going to, be a challenge out there. We're going to need the leaders at every level to be as engaged as they've ever been.
And heaven in 27.
Is that what it is? You're coining that now. I want to, Lisa Landis, I want to get your thoughts on maybe resident-facing amenities. Obviously, our partners here at WithMe have a lot of those resident-facing amenities as well. Do you see opportunities there where those resident-facing amenities can add value and reduce any sort of complications or noise to the resident experience?
Let me find my mute button there. So in affordable housing, we don't use a lot of resident facing automation yet. So most of our residents still are having the in-person conversations. So things like self-service scheduling or automated reminders are not widely adopted yet, but what we do use is automation behind the scenes to keep our teams organized. So things like routing emails, sorting communication, flagging priorities automatically. It's not flashy, but it frees up our team's time to spend more time actually helping residents instead of chasing paperwork. So even though it's not directly resident facing, automation still improves the resident experience because it gives us more time, more clarity, and a little bit less in our inbox. So sometimes that's the best thing that we can get right now.
Well, it seems, it's an interesting point you made, Lisa Moore. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Kind of sometimes I think we're all fascinated with the flashy, but when, good
Yeah.
old-fashioned customer service and just, maybe having a cup of coffee is the way to go with your residents. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, when I think about resident facing amenities, and I'm shifting from what I originally thought about answering this because I feel like we have continually talked about the answering automation and all of those bells and whistles that we get regularly with most of our multifamily AI technology. When I think about our amenities, I think about our package solutions today and how our humans have really totally been removed from that solution. They're getting texts on their phones with a code, they're opening up a locker, they're getting their package, and they're going on about their way. And I also think about another great AI tool is the pet compliance that is being coming into our industry now, gangbusters with that completely being again. The application for the pet is being sent to them. They are vetting the pet. They are giving us the compliance, whether it's a support animal or a service animal, whether it's a household animal, and that is really removing that again from our on-site team so that they're not being burdened down with having to do that research and be quite frankly, a HUD compliant officer when it comes to pets. So those two come to mind right off the bat.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot out there, and obviously there's a lot of suppliers, including the WithMe team, but that are out there that are very tangible and resident facing and great tools for our employees to interact with our residents. Those are going to be as anything becomes I guess it's the scarcity concept, right?
Yes.
Anything that becomes harder to do or less done becomes more valuable in a lot of ways. I want to pivot this question, Danny. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. How can leaders, you had a strong take on leadership going forward. How can those same leaders encourage innovation without really overwhelming their teams? Is there any recommendation, maybe some things that you've done with your teams to challenge them on the research and development side? But maybe any operational leaders, maybe at that mid-tier leadership level, to really encourage their teams to explore innovation.
Yeah. I, I had I typically on the data side and product development, you have a little bit more leeway. I don't know if this translates really well into the operation space, but I welcome people attempting and coming to me and saying, "Hey, I think this is a solution we could probably employ." I love empowering people to go out and say, "Here, you take 2 days and figure this out. Can this work? Give me a proof of concept." Um, and when they come back, either they will have learned that it doesn't work, or they will have learned something for themselves. Either way, it's been a productive use of time. I think you need to create space for that within your business if you're going to survive and thrive in the future. I mean, all the big players in the S&P 500 spend countless dollars on research and development. It's something that's required. But that's just my two. Hopefully there's something there that's
Yeah.
beneficial
Yeah.
to someone.
Yeah, I think so. And CJ, thanks for the question there. Lisa, I want to get Lisa Landis. I want to get your thoughts on this because you hear in the operator world, and you could relate to this a lot. How do I create time for innovation? I have no time. I have no time to even get my reports over the finish line. I have no time to take lunch, let alone anything else. How do I have time to create space for innovation? And Danny, I think you had a good sort of answer, obviously at the corporate level, but obviously Lisa, with your experience on the site level. How do you support that? Because ultimately, innovation at every level is going to be important. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that you have to lean on your team and challenge them to look at things differently and have them look at things without using the tools that they normally use. Have them kind of think outside the box. And do one thing at a time. Don't overwhelm them with, 50 different initiatives. Talk about one thing and let them see some success with that. And I think that will encourage more innovation.
Mhm.
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa Moore, any thoughts on encouraging innovation, maybe at that mid tier to site level?
Yeah, I think that just, use the technology. That's what it's designed for, is to give us time. And I think, introducing it and of small layers at a time, getting them comfortable with that, and them seeing the amount of time that it's opening up for them to do other operational tasks, is a win-win. And I don't think it's really a hard sell once they actually get bought in and have somebody supporting them while they utilize and implement the tools. They will personally see the time that it's giving them back so that they can be successful with it.
Yeah, I think with any innovation and any tools, if given the opportunity and the flexibility and the freedom, frankly, right, to use them and utilize them or play with them. I don't like the word play,
Hmm.
but ultimately it is what we do sometimes, almost childlike, right? We're just kind of
Hmm.
seeing how these things, how these toys work, if you will, or we'll call them tools because we're not children anymore. But and I think once you just determine how they work and how effective they are, I think it gets buy-in pretty quickly. And obviously that's where the leader comes in to say, yes, thank you for trying them, and now let me support you
Hmm.
along the way. I got a question that just came in. Is what do you think? And Lisa Landis, I'll go back to you. What do you think is the greatest leadership skill, most important going forward, guiding the teams as technology advances? Any thoughts there? Any specific? So if I'm a leader listening to this, is there, what should I really hone in on quarter one, quarter two, from a leadership skill set standpoint?
I definitely think emotional intelligence, right, is
So
something
I'm
that,
just gonna stop you there real quick, is because
okay.
and I'm gonna ask further questions based on your answer, okay? Because it's a great answer and I agree with you. But what does that mean to your average person? First of all, emotional intelligence is, how would you define that?
I, I think I want to make sure I was not muted.
We can hear you.
It's understanding like when to say things, how to say things, how to act, when to act, and what's appropriate, what's your appropriate audience. It's just really a maturity and how that you present yourself and interact with people.
Okay, so obviously work on that. Work on high levels of EQ. Obviously
Mhm.
combined, I would imagine, with familiarizing yourself with this new technology.
Yeah, and I think adaptability, right? So you have to be willing to adapt and to roll out change because this is a change and people are not comfortable with change most generally. So you have to get comfortable with that and you have to show people that you're comfortable with it and try and fail and be okay with that. And show your team that it's okay that you tried and you failed because you learned something from it and at least that you tried. So I think those things are pretty important.
You know what we're going to do now? Lisa, great answer, by the way. What I'd love to be able to do, first of all, let me just thank all of you guys for joining us today. We had a really robust conversation. I think went in a lot of different directions, but we're starting to get questions now. So if it's okay with you as panelists, I think this is an opportune time for those listening to jump in the chat and provide any questions you have. We're going to start with Seth's first question there. He actually has two. We'll start with the first one. His first one to the group is, how do we learn what AI products are best for multifamily? Do you have a recommendation beyond a standard ChatGPT search, of course? Danny, I'll start with you there. As you're taking a look at different analytic tools and AI tools, any best practices as operators or those in the analytic department or other departments as they start to vet different technologies and different tools on the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, it's a standard answer, but I think you first have to define what the problem is that you're trying to address and see if an AI solution makes the right sense. Um, an example is we're at a point where we're trying to underwrite a bunch of deals, and I mean that takes a lot of time. And if you only have one analyst, it's time consuming. And so you start to evaluate, okay, what underwriting AI tools exist in the market, and that's just the way you have to go, I think. And then conferences have a bunch of opportunities for you to vet and consider a bunch of products that are out there. And then when the time comes, you'll say, "Oh, I remember this one product or vendor that I had interacted with." And so that's my recommendation.
Danny, I want to stay with you with the follow-up question that I have. Every supplier on the technology side says they have AI incorporated in their product. How can someone who maybe isn't as skilled as you, who's also making these purchasing decisions for their organization, how do you really know that's true or not?
That's a great question. I typically just ask a lot of questions of the vendor to learn what models they're on, what data that they're sitting on top of. Um, you those sort of questions are necessary. You need to have like some, in
When,
my personal
when you
opinion.
say, Danny, I'm going to ask a follow-up question because you just said something I think that may be confusing to the audience. What
Yeah,
betas the softwares are sitting on top of. What do you mean by that?
yeah. So LLMs or all these AIs are built on
Learning
top of a
management
data set.
systems. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're all sitting on top of a data set. Um, Really, all models are learning how to learn, and so at some point there's going to be parity across all of the different models. Where you are going to find differences in the product is in inference, what data set they're sitting on top of. If you have, like the other panelists have mentioned, if you have terrible data, you're going to get wrong answers, even with the best models that are sitting on top of it. And so you just need to understand the core things like what data set are people using, what models are folks using, and then you'll have to, sort of vet the vendor.
Sure. I know I asked you to solve the world's problems with that question there. So Danny, thanks for playing along. Next question that I want to get the Lisas, as we refer to them. Your thoughts on any policy or procedure evolution that you've seen from your perspective as automation and AI has started to penetrate maybe your organizations or just the industry. Lisa Landis, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think that we as a company have a lot of opportunity to enhance our policies and procedures, but it's something that's been a hot topic of conversation of like how do you spell out how you use and don't use AI and how do you monitor it, right? And make sure that you're not sharing data that you could, because I think some of the free versions of AI, depending on which one that you use, are more susceptible. So yeah, we have some policies and procedures in place, but we could definitely enhance those and we're working on that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was just going to say we are just scratching the surface on that with the new data and still defining the best ways to present our policies and procedures. We are just now diving into that. So that's a great question and more to come.
Yeah, and that actually leads. I mean, there was a follow-up question, and I know this is, maybe you are, maybe you're not attorneys, but there was another question about liability. Lisa's like, I play one on TV, but I'm really not one. Liability concerns entering information into these systems. I think that's also sort of a real-time issue that companies and organizations are starting to investigate, probably working closely with their legal team and risk team to figure these things out. I'm not sure we're going to be able to answer those questions with specific answers yet, Seth. But these are great questions that we need to all, I think, probably continue to be asking as well. So just I think as we close with just a couple minutes here, thank you for all those great questions. Just how are you looking at 2026, and specifically, how are you looking at Q1 of 2026? Danny, obviously, you're doing a little, some different things than the other operators. And obviously, Lisa, you're on the training and support side of things as well. Lisa Moore, I'll start with you, and then we'll go over to Lisa Landis, and we'll end with Danny on this question. How are you looking at Q1 in 2026? What are your main focuses going forward?
My main focus is to really to get a better understanding and better results from our maintenance tool that we're using today. That's something that we're focused on a lot going into Q1, maintenance, reporting, those kinds of things around facilities as a whole. And also, I would like to see the first quarter and on. I think this may help us answer that number one thing we hear from employees. Could we get a shorter work week? I think with AI technology, that might be something that we're able to do in the future. So fingers crossed, we're able to give those employees back some time using the technology in the future.
Fingers and toes crossed. Lisa
Yeah.
Landis, what are you looking at Q1 in 2026? How are you looking at it?
Yeah, so again, back to the same theme of trying to utilize technology and teach our team how to use it to save time so that they can do all of those other things that are human in need.
Well, I love that. I think you've doubled down on that answer today and reiterated it for us. And I think it's such a good point that you're making about making sure that we focus on the humanity of our business. And if we lose that, I think we lose everything. Danny, lastly, what are you looking at in Q1? What are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm looking at building on top of some of the work that I've done in terms of a data foundation that we've built. The great thing about data is that you have the reporting side of things, you have the automation side of things, and then you have like this the validation, quality assurance piece of it too. So I'm looking at all of those verticals. Finding ways to automate bonuses, finding ways to identify fraud early on, and so that the systems can give us flags when we need it, and not necessarily have, human eyes having to look for those things all the time.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys all have your plates pretty busy for quarter one in 2026. I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you, panelists. And thank you, everybody. Feel free to jump in those comments and thank the panelists as well. They did a great job today. To everyone who joined us, of course, thank you. Huge thank you from the With Me team. And we're going to be sending out that full link to this webinar to everyone who RSVP'd. So thank you for being a part of it. You'll have all these notes. And please do not forget to sign up for the Print With Me and Sit With Me promotions before the end of the year so you can get 2 months free of service. And make sure you grab your holiday coffee bar package as well. So thanks again. We'll see you next time on the With Me webinar.